Very, very warm welcome. It is most encouraging to see so many people here. If you can't hear, please wave hands and indicate to us and we'll try and project better. If you do want to move forward, there are more seats at the front if that helps people, but wherever you're comfortable, you are very welcome to stay in terms of the proceedings. Probably should begin with introductions of the people sitting at the top table, just so that you know who we are. But we have deliberately taken away the tables and tried to make it a more relaxed and more informal situation. So we hope that will create the right atmosphere this afternoon for you to be able to ask the questions and make the comments that you wish to make in terms of the review. I'm Joyce Redfearn, I'm the chair of the Improvement Board.
I'm Graham Burgess, Wirral Council Chief Executive.
I'm Phil Davis, leader of the council.
I'm Jill Taylor from the Local Government Association, member of the Improvement Board.
I'm Mike Thomas, I'm the council's external auditor.
And we have other members of the Improvement Board in the audience, both past and present members of the board, so no doubt at times they may want to also join in as board members in terms of the comments and queries that we've received. To try to help things, because we have had, and are very pleased to have had, a very strong response to the consultation and to the opportunity to ask questions, we have put out, and I hope everybody can see, a piece of paper that says feedback from partners, but then goes on to the questions, which will be the main focus of today's session. And I have also, as chair, agreed that Martin Moulton, with whom much of this began, should have the opportunity to also make a statement at the end of the meeting, at the end of the questions. So I hope people are comfortable with that. Okay. I'm not going to dwell on the initial feedback. We wanted you to be aware that there have been responses, and this was actually yesterday evening when we just received these, and we are expecting more potentially through the course of the day up to 5 o'clock this evening. It gives you a flavour of some of the responses that are coming back, and I hope this is helpful in terms of seeing what others are saying, as well as hearing today what the people in this audience actually feel and think about the review report, the work that's been done by the Improvement Board, and I suppose fundamentally the issue is where and how well prepared Wirral Council now is for the next stage, which it still knows is an improvement journey. No one is saying today this is the end of the story. This is part of where we will be continuing, but in a different form, to see further improvements in Wirral Council. So, if we're all happy to do so, I'd like to turn to the first question. So the heading, I think it's on page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. People with me? Questions or feedback submitted by the public? Is that okay? And the first one is from Jay Yates. I don't know if Jay Yates is within the room and wants to identify themselves. It's not necessary. We will actually take the question whether people want to identify or not themselves associated with it. Okay. The first question there is about the timing and not having given at least 5 working days notice. And I'll ask Graham to respond to the question, please.
So anybody going for a stand up, that's okay. First of all, the requirement for public notice of meetings applies to statutory meeting of the council. This isn't a statutory meeting of the council, it's a meeting of the Improvement Board, and therefore the regulations in that respect don't apply. But clearly we like to follow good practice wherever we can. So immediately following the last Improvement Board meeting, because we knew there was a reasonably tight time scale, we met with representatives of the media and made sure there was extensive coverage of the decision of the Improvement Board to hold this meeting. And indeed, I think in the Echo, in the Globe, and on the Mayor's side, there was significant coverage of the intention to hold this meeting at this time on this day. And that was almost 2 weeks, I think, before this meeting had been held. So we did make sure there was coverage in those newspapers. And also we cooperated with both the Globe and the Echo to ensure there's some coverage even in the last day or two of this meeting taking place. So on that basis, we think that we have advertised, in fact we advertised this meeting via our partners in the press far more vigorously and extensively than we would a normal council meeting.
Thanks very much. We're going to move on in terms of making sure that we get through the questions. John, Grace, you present, yeah?
As there are quite a lot of questions, and they're in here already, I'm quite happy with you reading them out, if that will speed things up a bit.
I think really helpful of you, and thank you for submitting it in advance. Because people have the script in front of them, and because it's long, I won't actually read it out as we did in one of the other sessions, if that's all right. But we will let you come back when we've given the answer, unlike the other sessions, in terms of if there are supplementary questions or points that you feel that we didn't cover from your email. Okay, thank you. Brian, do you want to take?
Just in response to the first question, which relates to a whole series of appendices to the AKA report, our view is that all those appendices actually contain very sensitive personal information, and to release those appendices would be in breach of data protection, and also the duty we have to individuals who gave us information in either confidence or in related to their own personal, medical or financial circumstances. Therefore, it's our view that it would be inappropriate to release those documents as they contain a whole host of sensitive information. Clearly, these matters can be tested, if people wish to test our view, by FOIs and Information Commissioner, but so far our position has been and has not been challenged in respect to those appendices. Because if you, as you can see from some of them anyway, clearly showing they do contain very sensitive personal information.
I think that was recognised within the question, certainly in terms of one of the appendices.
Yeah, could I just check when the Chief Executive said we decided who the we were?
Well, it's the council. I can only represent the council.
Sorry, as I'm entitled to a supplementary on that, in relation to P in that list, which is the minutes of the DAS Monitoring and Development Subgroup meeting, I know that there were councillors present at that one, and that was used as a justification that councillors had signed off on the special charging policy. So, if you released it with the other names blacked out, wouldn't that mean people could have at least a bit of accountability as to who the people were who agreed to that?
Just on that, they can also say, Chair, that your agreement with the intention of the council to print all these questions, place all these questions on our website and all the answers to them as well, so they can be available to people who couldn't make this meeting, so they can see what we're saying. In respect to that, obviously this question only came at 5 o'clock last night, which is reasonable, and obviously your supplementary has been asked now, so I need to probably go away and take advice on that point, and we'll give you the answer both to you, John, personally, and put the answer on the website and everybody to see. And certainly Joyce and the Improvement Board will take that into account when they write the final report.
So thank you for the that's really helpful. Do you want to keep on going in terms of the series of questions, because we've got them in front of us?
The very next question I think refers to the Martin Smith report, and again the position is the Martin Smith report was redacted as it contained personal information, and the council has legal obligations with regard to public disclosure of that information to the individuals mentioned in that report. Council responsibility extends not only to the public, but to any person or body to which the information relates. Council considers every case on its merits and maintains a position that disclosure is not appropriate in these circumstances. And once again, there are ways of challenging the council via the Information Commissioner and other ways if the council is being unreasonable, and the council has and will always respond to the Information Commissioner's rulings. I would say, however, perhaps the most important part of that report particularly is recommendations around our whistleblowing, grievances and bullying policies, all of which have been refreshed in line with that report, and all of which is referred to in response to critical incidents report that's also considered by the audit committee last night.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything further you want to press in terms of that? Move on to the council point, which is in the next question.
Just stay standing up.
Yeah, I think it's a big job.
Again, it's a similar response that the council does have responsibility to individuals named in these reports, and this must be considered in relation to disclosure and redaction. Full disclosure of the Martin Smith report would, in the council's opinion, contravene its legal obligations under the Data Protection Act with regards to proper management and control information to its possession. Once again, there are ways of challenging the council independently if people have different view, and I would encourage people, if they don't agree with the council's position, to challenge us, and we will state our case to the Information Commissioner or any other relevant body. We believe, as well as obligations to the public as a whole, we have obligations to individual members of staff, public, service users to protect their interests, and that's the way we're acting in this way. If, however, people think we're wrong, then there's ways of challenging our position, and we welcome people challenging our position in that way.
You're wrong.
Sorry.
Well,
You welcome challenges. You're wrong. You're far from being open and transparent. That's ridiculous. I apologise to you. Well,
That's your view. So what we will do is allow further questions and comments at the end, and I understand that as a heartfelt, but we'll go through the series if that's okay. But can you tell us at the end?
So,
okay, because you could say clearly, if people think we are wrong, that's the perfect right to challenge us, and there are ways and processes where we can be challenged independently, and we welcome those challenges. And if we are wrong, we will, of course, publish documents.
So my supplementary to that is,
Yeah.
as you probably know from the Anna Klowski Associates report, that was also anonymised regarding the employees in it, but a key was later provided regarding the employees at head of service level and above. So therefore there's an inconsistency between the names that were published to do with that and the names to do with the Martin Smith report. Considering the heads of service names and above have more responsibility for what went on, would you consider publishing the names of any heads of service and above in the Martin Smith report? Or would your answer be the same as before?
Well, I'm going to say, John, first of all, I'm actually grateful to John, because one thing John has been very forensic in his approach, and I think we welcome that. And all I can say is, I will consider your request, but I can't give an answer to it until I take some advice on our legal obligations to those employees or former employees. Certainly, I'll consider that very seriously, John. We'll give you the response, and I will publish the response.
So that's 2 points. We've agreed to follow up from your questions, from your supplementary questions. So we now need to move on to, and I think it goes behind the last question really, in terms of the transparency.
Okay. In terms of the Wirral Public Finding Hard to Believe Wirral Council, I think what I would say on that, first of all, I don't accept there are unanswered questions. What I would say is there are a small number of matters that are yet to be concluded, and we are working through that in a structured way. What we have done, and I think it is some credit to the council, we could have just sat back. What it did do, it reduced the report our response to critical incidents, which, as you know, is embedded in this report. It also went to a specially convened meeting of audit last night, and was challenged at the audit committee. I think Mike was present and other members, no doubt. And I was pleased to say, at that meeting of audit, it received all party support, and was, I didn't say all member, all party support, and was supported by members of all parties in its acceptance and being welcomed, and the resolution that is in these papers you've got today. So I do think that the council has gone one step further than many councils have gone in publishing that critical incidents report, identifying in there 1 or 2 areas where further work is needed and timescales to conclude that work. I'd only further say, I think the council's overall approach is to actually, whether we need to be, to try and be open and accountable. For example, on other issues, we brought in Eugene Sullivan, the former director of the Audit Commission to independently review our bad debts position and our budgetary position. We referred other issues, which are referred later on in the questions, to independent auditors because we weren't satisfied with the independence or perceived independence of our own audit service. So constantly we are bringing in independent people, as indeed the Improvement Board is, because remember, was the Council that invited the Improvement Board in, to give us independent advice. So I think that does suggest that we are really open to new ideas. What I'd also say is that the 8K report, Mark Smith report, didn't focus on individuals, it focused on corporate failings by the Council. And the Improvement Board's intervention was about corporate failings by the Council. And what I would say is all those corporate failings have been addressed and are reported upon in the Improvement Board report. In my view, we're happy to take any corrections that people can spot as you read through it and ask questions about them.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to? No?
Okay.
Keep you on your feet. Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. In respect to the standards...
Chair?
Yes.
Just...
We're taking supplementaries from the individuals at the moment.
I
Unless you
thought
want to say something as a board.
as a member of, I think I am still a member of.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I said if you want to speak as a member of the
Yeah,
board.
okay. Because I could just pick the chief executive up on that, just in 1 second. As the person who initiated the Grosky report, he was very clearly into what had happened surrounding incidents from Article 1. So it was quite specific and it did contain issues about the failures that happened. So to say it focused on corporate failures wouldn't necessarily be accurate. In addition, the Martin Smith report was specifically about the allegations of bullying, which again was quite specific. And you might have chosen to look at the corporate failings, but it was quite specific. They were quite specific in their intention. How they've been subsequently interpreted is a matter for you. But to say it was there to focus on corporate issues would not have been accurate.
What I would say, Jeff, is I believe you've answered every single point of action from all those reports in the report of critical incidents that went to Audit Committee last night. An Audit Committee with support from all parties actually agreed and welcomed that report, and indeed if you look at the minute of the Audit Committee, and indeed we also referred to the Scrutiny Coordinating Committee, and again with support from all parties, the Scrutiny Coordinating Committee also endorsed the approach in that report. So I accept the point you're making, Jeff, and we're happy to deal with any individual points, but I think there's been a genuine attempt by the Council to deal with them. If there are any outstanding issues, once again, we can point them out, we will deal with them and come back to them. And we'll publish those issues as well. That's a commitment I'm sure I can make on behalf of the Council.
Thank you.
In respect to John's question about the standards regime and complaints with the standards regime, I think, first of all, I'd say the standards regime in operation locally at the time required standards complaints to be dealt with on a confidential basis. And that's still the case, and it's the case in most councils, but clearly, so makes a standards complaint. Until it's proven, clearly the matter should not be prejudged in terms of damaging the reputation of any individual as the complainee or the complainant. So therefore, the matters were dealt with under those procedures. There is no statutory right to reopen or revisit complaints that have been dealt with by the standards regime. In other words, you can't go backwards. Once the standards board has made a decision, you can't go back over it. The same way is when you go to court. If you're found guilty or not guilty, you can't actually, or not guilty certainly, you can't reopen it again, or you couldn't do it until very recently. So that's the position there. The standards regime is in place. The standards regime insisted that we deal with things confidentially, and that's what was done, and we can't revisit it. In the question to the 4 councillors, again, a similar response to that is, again, those complaints were also made under the previous standards regime, and which was operational until 1st July 2012, and they've all been dealt with by that regime. Therefore, there's no powers under statute to reopen those complaints. So, right or wrong, the Standards Board may have made the right decision or wrong decision, but there's no power under statute to reopen those complaints.
Sorry, my question wasn't to actually reopen the complaint. The question was about when Martin Morton revised his complaint about the councillors, that second complaint, it was reported, in fact, to the Standards Committee in a public session, disappeared from the files, and when the Standards Committee, I think it was called, not board, referred it to Standards for England, Standards for England was sent the original complaint and decided that the one councillor no further action because they weren't sent the second complaint, which included them. And obviously, with his second complaint going missing, it makes people think, and it was reported in the press at the time, that somebody deliberately removed it from the files, and obviously that was why I asked who had access to it, which was my question, rather than, my question wasn't about reopening, my question was merely who had access to it, and why did it go missing.
Well, I misunderstood your question, John, and what I'll do, I will give you a written response again, which we publish on the website to the points you raised then, because I've not had a chance to investigate those points yet. Okay. In terms of the request to strengthen the independent nature of the audit of this management committee, first of all, I think it's going to be proposed by the leader of the council that which for the new municipal year, after the election in May, that there should be a majority of independent people on the audit of this management committee. There's only one other council in the country that's adopted this approach, and the leader may wish to speak for himself on this matter, but I think it is it's got to be recognised, I hope, the willingness of this council to open itself up to external scrutiny by, we don't know the numbers yet, because that's going to be discussed, it will be, and it feels that it should be referred to the council scrutiny committee to discuss the best way to do it, best way to recruit them, the exact numbers, but certainly I think it's really brave of it, that this council and the other one council to open itself up in this way. And the sort of people who might be selected, again, there'll be discussion with scrutiny and look at elsewhere and take advice from audit. I suspect there'll be a number of people with a financial background to challenge that. There'll be a number of people who can represent key community organisations and can represent individual voices on the Wirral. So the mixture, I suspect, of professional and lay people who can judge whether this council is actually operating well in terms of its audit responsibilities. I think that's another demonstration of the openness that Phil and I think all parties, I suspect, want going forward and to be challenged. So in theory, and in practice in fact, the councils can be outvoted by the independent members on that panel. I'd also say that the council does intend, again this is not finalised, to retain the chair of that panel as a councillor. Certainly the majority will be non-councillors. And that's because it's still a council committee, and in terms of organising things, we need the availability of a councillor to do that. But I don't know whether Phil wants to add into that.
Just a sentence to say, I think it will enable kind of an ongoing kind of challenge to be built into monitoring and reviewing how we go forward in terms of all of the issues that have been looked at by the improvement board over the last 18 months. So I think it's just it's another kind of check going forward that we've got an external voice or external voices, not part of the council, to really scrutinise what we're doing on performance going forward, and I welcome that.
Okay. In respect to the questions about FOIs, I can give a guarantee that resources will remain in place as long as necessary to ensure we continue to meet the timescales that we have signed up to meet. Personal, you may not be aware that every week that my management team, myself and my senior management, Joe and Kevin and Claire Fisher and other colleagues, sit down and make sure we are meeting those deadlines, make sure we are We're meeting the commitment we gave to the Information Commissioner. So in fact, the resources will be there, and you're quite right, we did have to boost the resources in that team because the number of SOIs we were getting, we were falling behind. But now we are meeting the deadlines and we will continue to do so. Clearly I can't comment on any individual FOIs because there are so many of them, several hundred at any one time. But certainly what we're saying is we always make sure that people who put their FOIs know they have a chance to appeal against our decision. So should we refuse to disclose information, which is a very, very small minority, but should we do that, then certainly people have a right to appeal. A number of times the council's decision is upheld, sometimes it's not upheld. But we always respect that and then we'll act upon the decision of the Information Commissioner. So there's a check and balance against the council, which is the Information Commissioner.
Okay. Do you want to ask anything supplementary?
Yeah, it's interesting you refer